Okay, this is our Fiero motor, 2.8 liter, 1987 L44. Engine is laid out as so. Forward position is this way. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 cylinders. I have already done the valve seals on number 6, so I'm going to move to number 4 and show you how to do them. So, first thing first is we got to remove the spark plug, which I've already done so. And that's going to be with a 3/8 deep drive and lefty loosey. So the spark plug's out. We're going to take our tool with the extension. We're going to go ahead and turn that into the cylinder by hand. Okay. All the way by hand. We're just going to go tight as we can get it. And if it leaks, we'll know. Okay. Boom. I'm not going to put air to it yet because I'm going to remove one of the rockers right here. So on this engine, you'll be able to see the exhaust because you have an exhaust right here, and it lines up with this rocker right here, so we know that's your exhaust, and the one that doesn't is going to be your intake, which is going to be right here. So let's go ahead and take the rocker arm off on the exhaust. Lock that down. All right, so we're going to take a rocker arm off. It's 3 pieces. Okay. And your nut. And we're going to set that aside. We're going to hook up our air. What I have on the compressor is 50 psi. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a socket and a 5-pound sludge, and we're going to tap on this retainer piece right here. Because after it's been sitting for 40 years, it's going to want to stay stuck together. And if you don't do this and you put the tool on here and you compress it, it's all going to stay as one piece and it's not going to separate. And so you have to do this. And so I'm just using a 1/2 inch deep well socket going over there, and you're going to hear a sound as I do this, and then you'll know like when it breaks loose. We just want to break it loose. So it's still stuck together. Here. Okay, so now this is the sound of it being broken loose. See, it doesn't have the air like pop coming through the exhaust. Okay. So now we're going to take our compression tool and I'll get a close up on this. Push this all the way up. Okay. Now we're going to grab our magnet. And we're going to pull our collets or keepers. Yeah. So we get those. We're going to set that aside with our rocker. And then when you go to pull it off, it's going to hang. And that is because you have a black O-ring right there, also known as the packing, that sits up underneath the keepers. So I'm going to release, I'm actually going to, so we can just work it off here. There we go. And then we'll just leave it like that. Okay. This being the exhaust, there is no umbrella seal on here. Okay. The only thing that they have is this O-ring, which is crumpling. See, it's already coming apart like that. And it's very common for those to be super toasty. And what that does is it prevents oil from coming down through the top of the retainer and dripping down on the valve stem. And you can see on the actual spring here, you have a shield in here, so you have a splash shield. And then it has like just a little tiny opening right here. And what that does is it keeps oil from actually splashing on your valve and then burning. But the unique thing about the exhaust valves is like, why aren't they as protected as the intake? Well, if you think about the combustion on the exhaust, it's pushing air out. And so as it's pushing air out, it's also pushing air out through the top of here. So no oil or anything is actually gonna get sucked down in. And unlike the intake will suck air in. You know, on the intake stroke, it's pulling the fuel, air, and everything in. And so it's gonna pull the oil also down in there. So that's why you have an actual seal on top of the valve. So it's not pulling oil in. And on the exhaust, you just have this little black O-ring, and it works. Okay, so that's that piece. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean our valve area. And we wanna make sure that we don't have any bits of valve seal, the black. So now that's all set and situated. We're gonna grab our valve seal. And if you want, you can put small amounts of oil and that will help it slide over the valve, okay? But before we do that, we're putting our valve spring back on because it's gonna sit down inside the retainer. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna put this down on there. Get my hand in here. Okay, and I like to use the keeper and just push it down on there. Or if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Okay, this is gonna force it onto the other groove. Like so. And come on back to this little. And you can use tweezers and just like using my hands. Okay, now that's set in place. Now we're gonna release slowly. Making sure that our keepers are inside the grooves. Okay. And that is a correctly seated valve spring, and that's it. So that's our exhaust right there, all complete. And now we're going to put a rocker back on. Okay. So this is the one that we just did, and this is our intake right here. There's no exhaust come out of it. So exhaust, intake. Okay. 15 millimeter lefty loosey. And then when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your sockets and everything is clean. You don't want to be messing around with your motor with dirty tools, okay? And we're taking this off one by one so we can't mix anything up, right? Okay, we're gonna go set this aside. Right over the top, okay? And then listen to the sound. All right, broke loose. Now we're gonna take our tool And see how we have a long and a short. I like to keep the short to the right and the long to the left. It's just my personal preference. Okay. And you can see where I'm grabbing right here. You won't be able to get all the way down the bottom, but you can get it just within the second hole above from the bottom there. Okay, then we turn the bad boy down. Okay, pull this. Boom. Call it. The other one from the other side. I don't like to stick my magnet to everything. Okay, you finally got it. Now your valve seal is going to be on the bottom of this thing. And so we're going to pull it all up together. Okay. Boom. So you don't need a tool or anything with this. You can just pull it all up together at the same time. So just like that, but we'll have to unspring it to get that seal out. So, okay, I'm gonna show you how to actually install this seal right here. But in actuality, it would be after you put the spring on, because of the splash shield has these little tongs in right here. And that's how I was able to pull the old one off. So make sure this goes in after your spring, okay? This is for demonstration purposes only. So we would put just a little oil right here, and then we're gonna put our protective sleeve so we don't tear up our seal on the grooves, the keeper grooves. And that's gonna go all the way like that. That's as far as I can go, pushing with my fingers, okay? And then we're gonna pull up, okay? Okay. And then we're just gonna take our socket and we're just gonna push down with our hand, okay? And that's it. That's all there is. And I'm not going to be able to pull that up. You can see the spring is pushed out right there, okay? And that doesn't go any further. And then you're going to look at your top, and your top isn't going to have no gaps in your top. If you got a gap in your top, we got problems, okay? Spark plug boot tool. And you should see the actual spring close when I pull it up. Let's try it. There it is. Yeah, I already cut a groove, so this is a bad one. I got a whole box of them, so. And then throw it in the trash. Don't set it somewhere and accidentally reuse it. Okay, so we're gonna put the actual real one on here. Our spring on first. All right. And then we're gonna spray some WD-40 down there. And some lubrication. Put our cap. go until it stops. Okay. And I'm just putting firm pressure on there. Okay, so this one looks great. I'm gonna give a retainer a quick wipe with a paper towel. And you want to make sure you're not pulling up on this. You'll be pushing down the entire time. Okay. Okay, we're going to put a rubber O-ring on. This is our packing. And we're going to take one of our keepers and we're going to push down that packing. Okay, very important after you do all your valve seals is we need to remove all the lash out of all our rockers, and then we got to do a 3/4 turn so we can actually preload. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's actually really simple, not intimidating at all, but it does take some know-how, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, because these have been sitting a while, or I should say the motor's been sitting a while. You can see I can push down on that. Now normally if that hydraulic lifter was pumped up with oil, I would not be able to do that. But because this motor's been sitting a while, I can. So I won't be able to do the twist method because I could really turn this all the way down and this thing will still spin, 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 spin. So what we're doing is just taking the push rod and we're going back up and down and seeing if there's any movement. Side to side is okay, and we're just worried about up and down, okay? That's right there. And if you're not sure about it, it's okay. Just, you're like, I'm not sure, just release it. And then you're like, yeah, there was definitely some like movement there. And how precise does this have to be? Just get it as close as you can by feel. That's all you need. Just get it as close as you can by feel, okay? And because it's hydraulic lifters, it doesn't have to be like super accurate. Okay. And now what you're going to do is you're going to do that to the exhaust on this one and the intake, and then you're going to do it down both sides, okay? All the way down. So I have 2 wrenches. I have one for the crank, and then I have one for the rocker arms. And a tech tip is just release the spark plugs a few turns, and so you can have less churning resistance on the motor because you've just released all the compression in the motor by doing that. And so it'll make it so much easier to do this job, okay? So we're going through and we're making sure that we don't have any valve lash, okay? Up and down movement, up and down movement. It can churn, but we're worried about up and down movement. Okay, so we're spot on. Okay, when we rotate this motor, it's going to be at 90 degrees, and it's going to turn just like this, okay? Going clockwise always, clockwise always. You're going to do that once. Okay, once you do that, you're going to pull all the lash out of your valves. So you should only be tightening each one of these. And what you're looking for is to see if there are any loose ones when you're going around, okay? And you're going up and down, not twisting them, because you can twist them, but they won't go up and down. 90 degrees again, okay? Start at the 12 o'clock, and then we're gonna go to the number 3. Bam. Just like that. Here, and then we're gonna check for a lash. And it only takes 4 rotations to do this to get all the lash up. Let's say I have a loose one right here. So I'm only gonna tighten the rocker stud down until I can't feel any more movement going up and down. And that's all I'm looking for. You're not loosening anything on here. The only thing you're doing is checking for looseness, tightening it, and that's it. All right, we're gonna do the next one. All right, so this is gonna be number 3, 12 o'clock down to the 3. Okay. And we have our spark plugs cracked on all the cylinders, so it makes it a lot easier for us to rotate this motor. Okay, same thing, checking for lash. Up and down movement. Okay, good. And then we're gonna do it one more time. Start at the 12 o'clock position. We're gonna go to the 3. Boom. Okay. And we're gonna check for a lash. Making sure there is no up and down movement. And that is it for that piece. And then what you do after this is, once we have no lash on any of the rockers on the right and left bank, we're then going to take our ratchet wrench and we're going to preload all the hydraulic lifters. 12 always. We're keeping everything the same. And then we're gonna rotate this all the way around to the 9 o'clock. Same here. 12 o'clock, all the way to the 9 o'clock. And we're doing this all the way down. Boom. 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 We're going to do the same thing to the other bank. And once you have that done, mission complete. There's nothing left that you have to do to this. Now, the service manual does say to turn these 1.5 turns, but all the professional engine builders, they only do 3/4 of a turn on these. I've never seen anybody actually do the actual full 1.5 turns. And then let's say if you put a comp cam in for whatever reason, the comp cams actually say only preload them 1/2 a turn. But there have been reports of people having issues with that, still some rattle. So your best bet is 3/4 of a turn, and you're not gonna have any issues. I promise. To give you a back history on this, is back in 1957, DuPont company, also called Chemours or Chem Hours, they trademarked a product called Viton. And the main product that's in Viton is called fluoroelastomer. The fluoroelastomer is primarily a fluorine, and that actually gives the rubber a super durability and it makes them really tough. Working temperatures is up to 400 degrees. harsh temperatures up to 600 degrees for 48 hours. And they can take everything, acids, heat, you name it. That's why, you know, they're all used in today's modern vehicles. Prior to that, they just used asbestos and rubber from trees. Now, the other companies have, you know, since copied it, but they're not actually able to use that term because it's trademarked. So like Felpro, the ones that I have right here, call it a premium polymer. There's another valve seal that you can use, which is from Engine Tech, and I have the part number. It's Sierra 305 Victor-20, and it still uses the same positive style seal that's seen here. It's just a little bit different design, but I think that actually the Felpro is a little cleaner on the look and the finish, to be honest, but not that these are bad.